I had coffee with a gentleman yesterday that I had known years ago, just once or twice. And he and I are going to do a funeral for a friend of ours. So we got to talking about it, and he said, "You don't remember everything, do you, that happened a number of years ago?" And I said, "Rehearse it in my ears." He said, "Well, remember you had that show, Power Finances, and one day I was driving down the road in my truck, and the Lord spoke to me and gave me a vision of your face, of all things." He said, "Go give that man $1,000. Well, at the time, he was not very well landed. He said, "Lord, I maybe have $200 in my pocket. But I have an envelope at home. I think it's got 500 in it. So I don't know where I'll get the rest of it." So he went home, opened up his desk drawer, couldn't find it, pulled the drawer out, and there was an envelope all the way stuffed in the back. And he opened it up. It wasn't 500. It was $1,000. He went, "Okay, I'm getting the message." So he took off over to my house. He happened to have my number, and he called and found out where I lived. Actually, he called a TV station, and they told him where I lived. So anyway, he walks in, and I'm counseling with this guy who's contemplating suicide. And he walks in, he says, "Okay, God told me to give you this $1,000, and he handed me that envelope." Well, the guy who was contemplating suicide had just enough Jesus in him, I guess, that he hadn't done it yet, but he never said a word. And he listened to this bizarre story that this man told about that $1,000 and where it was and how he got it and why he got it and why he brought it to me. And after carrying on that conversation a little while, he jumps up and he said, "I'll be right back." He went out to his truck and he got $100 out of his wallet and brought it back. He says, "All right, I got to give you $100. He said, "I'm not going to commit suicide. I've never seen God do something like this before in my life." It was about money. All right. So the man, before he left, I said, "Look, I got a word for you." He said, "You do?" And I said, "Yeah." So I prophesied over him. I said, "What, you've got a wife, and your wife is fixing to double her income." And he said, "There's no way. She's a registered nurse." And I said, "Well, I said what I said." I wasn't taking it back. I knew it was God. And he went home and told his wife about it, and she said, "I don't know how that's possible." Well, it wasn't but just a short period of time. She's at the hospital, and she is crouched down behind this desk, and this man walks up and asks the desk lady, nurse, "Look, is there anybody here that we can get to take this specific job? It takes a specific education." And she said, "No, sir, there's nobody here on staff that can do that." Well, my friend's wife heard that, and she popped up from behind the counter. She said, "I can do that." So she went to school for 3 weeks, came back, and they better than doubled her salary. Prophecy fulfilled. Glory to God. Well, that's not all of it. So the man is getting upset with his work. He doesn't like it anymore. He works for AT&T as some type of engineer. And he says, "Oh, this work is getting to be really boring." And the Lord spoke to him. He said, "I want you to go. And he said, "Where?" He said, "Out." He said, "Lord, what would I do for a living? This is what I've got for a living here." And God said, "Go out." Well, he wasn't sure how he was going to do that and even tell his wife. So about 3 days later, that's pretty significant, the man walks in from HR and he says, "Look, the boss told me that there are 3 people here that I could give a 6-month severance package to if they would take it and they could leave the company. And I was going to ask you if you wanted to be one of them." He said, "But I know you're not going to take it because you're too young. You just 3 years away from total retirement." And he says, "But I need an answer by 4 o'clock today." He said, "You don't give me much time." Well, he'd already heard from God. Where did God want him? Out. So he went home, told his wife, and come back, and he said, "All right, I'll take it." The man said, "Well, I can't believe you're doing this." Well, it turns out that God blessed him with another job, even better, and was doing contracting. And of course, his wife now has doubled her salary. So they're rocking along a little while, and they're living, I think, in a trailer, and they wanted a house. So they started looking at a couple of houses here in town and found one that they really liked. She said, I want this house. This is perfect. He said, well, let's see what we can do. And they made her an offer $50,000 less than what she was asking. And the house was actually worth $100,000 more than that. They were just trying to move it fast. They didn't know that somebody would come along and give them even $100,000 less. But within 3 days, they called them back because they said, we don't have a place to live, and said, we've got a place to rent and we can sell it to you now. Bought the house. Guess what? That house belonged to my daughter. She had totally remodeled and owned the lake. Beautiful house. His life was so charmed, and he's been so blessed ever since. And we got to sit down yesterday and talk about all of that. And I said, you know, one of the big things that comes to my mind about that $1,000 offering is this, is that man didn't commit suicide. He said, you know, I was thinking about that. He said, but in the meantime, we got mega blessed. And he said, that is the best $1,000 I've ever given. He said, ever since then, I've been a giver, and I give all the time. And I said, that's my lifestyle. So I just want to tell you that story, what your gift can do for you. If you will go and give God something in his hand that he can multiply, I promise you he will. More people are looking for God to give them something rather than doing just the opposite of what he wants you to do. He wants you to plant a seed, and money is a seed. You can put it in the bank and make maybe 1.5% interest on a savings account. You can put it in some kind of stock and maybe make 10%, or a mutual fund and make 8% in 10 years. But you can't do multiplication like that overnight. This is like power finances. And if you really want to get in God's track and you want to go forward in your life, I want you to consider, what is that in your hand? You might say, I don't have it. But if you will say in your heart, like that man did, Lord, I'll do it, God will make sure you get the money to do it. I've seen it too many times, and he's done it for me many times. He'll give me the money to give. That's what's absolutely amazing. And it'll be supernatural, I promise you. Love you guys, and go in peace. Bye. God bless you.